I was close to death when Sharon Stone said that. I felt it in my bones. Hey, I'm Sarah Reed, and today we're pulling back the velvet curtain on a 90s superstar who seemed untouchable until life hit her harder than any Hollywood plot twist. You know her from Basic Instinct, Casino, the red carpets, the icy stare that launched 1,000 think pieces. But at 67, her story isn't just glamour. It's survival. It's that one private pain she still carries. I remember watching Sharon own the 90s like a queen. Then years later, reading her talk about seeing a white light during a brain hemorrhage. It stopped me. How does someone go from magazine covers to fighting for her life and then keep going? That contrast is the heart of this episode. Today we'll walk through the rise, the collapse, the slow rebuild, the misdiagnosis, the autoimmune battles, the endometriosis, the financial hits, and a family loss that still echoes. This isn't a tragedy tale for clicks, it's a human story about resilience and the scars we don't see. Quick question before we dive in. When you think of Sharon Stone, do you picture the icon or the survivor? Tell me in the comments. Let's start at the top, where everything looked perfect. I didn't expect this. The woman who terrified and thrilled audiences in the 90s started as a shy kid from Pennsylvania. Sharon Von Stone, a farm girl with a bookish streak, jumped from modeling to tiny film roles, the kind that flash by before the popcorn gets salty. And then boom, 1992. Basic Instinct. The moment the world decided she was dangerous, brilliant, and impossible to ignore. By 1995, she's in Casino going toe-to-toe with De Niro and Pesci, pulling an Oscar nomination. At her peak, Sharon wasn't just famous, she was a weather system. Magazine covers, talk shows, power lists. She used that spotlight too. AIDS activism, big charity nights, a voice that carried beyond Hollywood. From the outside, the life looked like a fairy tale. Marriages, a beautiful home, adoptions that grew her family and her heart. I remember seeing those red carpet photos and thinking, she has it. But having spent years studying this business, I know the shine hides the strain. The 90s demanded perfection, especially from women. And the higher the pedestal, the harder the fall. And fall she did, not in the tabloids, but inside her own body. The twist came in 2001, and it was ruthless. Let me paint the moment. Sharon's in brutal pain. Not a headache like a rifle shot inside her skull. Doctors tell her she's fine. Maybe stressed, maybe dramatic. She knows it's not. Days pass. The pain doesn't stop. A second angiogram finally shows it. A ruptured vertebral artery. Blood in the subarachnoid space. This is life and death territory. Surgeons move fast. Platinum coils, emergency procedure, and for Sharon, darkness. Then a white light. She later said she saw faces of people she loved who had already passed. I get chills every time I think of that. She bled for 9 days. 9. And when she woke up, nothing was simple anymore. Here's what gutted me. She was initially dismissed, labeled, not believed. That happens to women in medicine too often. And for a global star to face that, it tells you how deep the problem runs. This is the turning point. The icon nearly dies. The body survives, but the old life, it doesn't come back the same way. What happens next is a slow, stubborn climb, with more stumbles than the headlines ever showed. I have to be honest, this part makes me angry. After the hemorrhage, Sharon didn't just have to heal. She had to relearn life. Memory gaps, sensitivity on one side, exhaustion that only 8 hours of solid sleep could tame. And still, she ran into doctors who didn't listen. Imagine fighting your body and the system at the same time. While she recovered, another punch landed: money. Years out of work, medical bills, and people taking advantage while she was vulnerable. She has said she lost millions. Think about that, one of the most bankable stars of the 90s. Suddenly counting pennies in trust. Hollywood can be loving on Friday and cold on Monday. After a brain injury, some saw her as broken goods. Roles slowed, calls faded. I remember a producer once telling me, "In this town, memory is short unless you're profitable." It stuck with me because it's brutal and true. But she didn't quit. Sharon learned to protect her brain, ask for second opinions, and move at her own pace. It wasn't a comeback montage, it was quiet work, one day at a time. And just when her body steadied, more health battles showed up at the door. Here's the part we don't see on carpets and covers: the everyday grind of chronic illness. Sharon has spoken about living with endometriosis, pain that can derail a day, and an autoimmune condition she keeps mostly private. At one point, doctors found large benign fibroids that needed surgery. She's also talked about earlier surgeries on her breasts to remove tumors. What impressed me is how methodical she got about care. No processed food, careful sleep, gentle routines. She's the person who tells you, kindly but firmly, get a second opinion, because her first angiogram missed the bleed, because her fibroids were brushed off before someone looked closer. I've heard that advice 1,000 times, but from her it hits different. She earned it. And still, she travels, works, paints, and shows up for causes she believes in. Is it easy? No. It's a truce she negotiates with her body every day. I think a lot of you know that feeling. But health wasn't the only battle. There's a grief in her story that sits deeper than any diagnosis. I need to slow down for this. Sharon's family grew through adoption, and her love for her children has always been front and center. Years ago, one of her sons faced severe neurological challenges, limited speech, mobility issues, so many hospital days. She has described the joy of his smile and the weight of his pain. In 2019, after a long illness, he passed away, 10 years old. When I first read her tribute, I just sat with it for a while. You don't move on from losing a child. You move with it. She shared her love, her pride in his courage, and her grief. And she's careful. She keeps parts of that heartbreak private, as she should. We honor that here. On top of that, she's weathered the end of marriages and relationships. People can drift when life gets hard. Some did. She's mentioned feeling abandoned after her stroke. That kind of loneliness leaves a mark. So when we talk about the tragedy of Sharon Stone, it isn't a headline. It's the quiet echo of a mother's loss, the private ache that lingers even when the public smile returns. That's the wound I think still shadows her life, and yet she stands. Here's what I love about Sharon today. She leads with purpose. She talks openly about aging, about protecting her brain, about listening to women. She's lent her voice to groups pushing for better research on women's brain health. She paints, she writes. Her memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice, feels like someone handing you a flashlight in a dark tunnel. She doesn't pretend everything is fine. She'll say the headaches still flare. She'll say gratitude is a practice, not a mood. And she celebrates the living friends, art, her kids, the work that feeds her spirit. Colleagues respect her. Fans show up not just for the icon but for the survivor who tells the truth. I keep coming back to this question: do some wounds ever fully heal? Maybe resilience isn't erasing pain, it's learning to carry it with grace. Sharon Stone, at 67, is proof that strength and sorrow can share the same room. Before we wrap, I want to hear from you. Which part of her journey hit you hardest? The near-death fight, the long recovery, or the private grief? Drop a comment and let's talk about it. If you came in for the 90s legend, I hope you're leaving with the full person. Sharon Stone's story isn't neat, it's brave, it's complicated. And it reminds me why we make golden American legends in the first place, to honor the shine and the shadows. If this moved you, share it with someone who needs a little hope today. Tap like so more people see it. And if you want more stories where Hollywood history meets real human grit, hit subscribe and ring that bell. I drop new episodes you won't want to miss. I'm Sarah Reed, and this is Golden American Legends, signing off with love and respect for a woman who kept going when the script turned cruel. Thanks for watching, and take care of yourselves and each other.